everyone. Welcome to the Concussion Discussions series brought to you by Integrated Brain Centers. I am your host, Amy Zellmer from Faces of TBI. And today I am here chatting with Jacob Meyer, a clinical social worker and psychotherapist at Integrated Brain Centers. And today we're going to be talking all about practicing mindfulness. So welcome to the series, Jacob.
Thank you so much, and wonderful to be talking with everyone today.
So I'm excited to dig into mindfulness. It's something I've been doing. I recently took a course in it, and
Awesome.
I've been digging a lot deeper into it. I've had a basic understanding of what it is for a long time, but now I feel I have a deeper understanding of it and how it really can help individuals with TBI and PTSD.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, it's one of the best, I think. I'll try to describe this. I think it's probably one of the best interventions to be used in the modern era of psychotherapy. And it's something that's here to stay. There's an incredible amount of evidence behind it. And I think it changes initially, and this is how it changed with me from first, it's like, you learn how to meditate, and that's a great thing. This is stuff a classmate in graduate school sort of turned me on to a little bit. I read Wherever You Go, There You Are by Jon Kabat-Zinn, just a wonderful classic that I would recommend to anybody getting in. I still learn a lot when I revisit that book. But it goes from sort of something you do, maybe a little practice, to really a way of life. And that's the big thing that I like to give to patients, is that I like to think of myself, I'm a psychotherapist that's oriented in a relational style, trauma-informed style, an emotional style, but also very much a mindfulness-oriented style as well. It's simply become more and more central to my practice, and especially with those people who feel extremely dysregulated, to be able to help them stabilize in the short term. And with the population that we're talking to today, of TBI survivors and people living with post-concussion syndrome, I think it's one of the number one things I've helped them with in the short term to help them stabilize their mood.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, stabilizing the mood, and often we live with anxiety and, a lot of fear of hurting ourselves again. And then a lot of that anxiety is just coming from the fact that, our central nervous system's amped up and we're in fight or flight mode. So it's super common for anyone living with PCS to, have some form of anxiety. And I have found mindfulness can really, really help calm me down if I start feeling anxiousness creep in. So maybe let's start with just like, what is mindfulness? What does it mean?
Mm-hmm. Well, mindfulness, I think, is classically defined by the main teachers of it as paying attention in the present moment, and without judgment. And so it's all about sort of being here, being present with right now. And people probably listening to this are like, well, of course I am here right now. But we can sort of imagine, well, how many places might you be right now? Are you in what you're thinking about next? Is your mind drifting towards what happened earlier today? Are you thinking about maybe what you need to make for dinner? How much of you is here actually right now? Because so much of us in this culture, and one of the reasons we have such a powerful culture is that we have to do so much, really pulls a lot out of each person to live within our culture. We're very production-oriented people. We're very efficiency-focused people. So we're constantly going from one thing to the next sort of all day. And we can find ourselves, oftentimes, myself included, tumbling from one appointment or responsibility to the next. And if we live in that in sort of a chronic state, we can lose our ability to be purely present with ourselves. And we find ourselves being pulled more and more into the past and the future.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I like to say, it's not worrying about yesterday or fretting over tomorrow. It's about being just right here in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I have found for myself that it's really helpful to just, focus on right now. What is happening right now? For instance, someone who maybe doesn't like to take public transportation and they have to take the bus every day. and just focusing on, okay, what's going on right now. And, you know, oh, that woman right there has on a purple jacket, and that woman has on a green hat. And it just like, it's not about having a goal. And like you had said, no judgment. So why don't you elaborate on the no judgment part?
And I think for this this demographic, especially Amy, the tenets in mindfulness of judgment and acceptance, I think, are things that I run in time and time again. That first piece being a judgmental piece of us, we as human beings judge and categorize our experiences rapidly throughout the day. This tasted good, this tasted bad, it's hot or it's cold, I feel okay, I feel tired, or I feel like I want to go. And that comes in a lot with TBI survivors because there's a massive judgment of their experience that's happening. That most people who experience TBIs, this is something that is happening to you. You know, no one goes out to it in a day and wakes up and says, I want something that sort of interrupts my entire life, perhaps indefinitely, to happen right now. And so we can start judging, intensely judging our experience as TBI survivors as saying, like, why did this happen to me? Why did this happen to other people? This isn't fair right now. What does this mean about me and my family? What does this mean about me as a person? I'm judging myself as a person against myself before my TBI. How am I judging myself against where I should be in the future? Am I not getting myself to that future in the present right now? These are, I can go on for hours and hours like this of the judgments that I've heard people go through. And the issue with those judgments is that that pulls us into a further state of disempowerment. It pulls us from this present moment more and more, and that can further sort of spiral symptoms of anxiety of, I'm judging myself because I'm not where I'm at in my recovery, or I had a setback. How am I ever going to get back and be able to produce for my family again? That can cause a lot of anxiety about the future. Or I might never be able to get back to where I was before. I'm trapped in this. Boy, that's something that fuels a lot of depressive symptoms when a human being feels trapped in their day-to-day life, trapped in their body as well. So judgment being one of those really big things I run into in treating TBI survivors almost on a daily basis here, Amy.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was once explained to me, when we judge something, you know, whether it's a person, situation, emotion, we're giving it power. And we don't want to give it power. We just want to release it, let it go. And so judging it is a form of giving it power. And I thought that was really an interesting way of looking at it. And when you give something power, you're giving it more attention and more energy, when that can just make you, you know, spiral down that hole. And like you said, towards more anxiety and depression.
No, exactly. And building off that, like, we're giving that thing our power. This thing has power over me. This thing is doing something to me right now. I'm judging that maybe today is a higher level of brain fog of today. So when that brain fog comes, I feel very, very, what's the word, disempowered to that. You know, this has power over me in that way. And that can be extremely distressing for us as human beings. And so you're very, very much right. When we judge things and how we categorize things in our mind, these might just seem like thoughts. And ideally, that's where we want to get with mindfulness, is that understanding that a thought is a thought, a feeling is a feeling. But when we attribute that, when we place this judgment, when we give something power, now it's becoming real in a much different way.
Yeah. And, you know, and I feel like mindfulness, we can practice it anytime, anywhere. You know, like I said, if you're riding on the bus, you can be practicing mindfulness, and no one else really has to know you're doing it. And I think a lot of times people confuse mindfulness with meditation, because there is mindful meditation, right? But they're not necessarily the same thing, right?
No, of course. And meditation, in classic meditation, has a much more religious connotation to it. And mindfulness is a non-religious practice. It is derived from Buddhist practice, but this is what has been studied and refined and is evidence-based over the years it's been brought and sort of hammered into more of an overall tool that is more palatable for everyone. If we're not comfortable with practicing something in a religious formulation, then we can go ahead and practice mindfulness as well. But you're also talking about the differentiation here, Amy, between doing a formal mindful meditation, like a focused meditation, one of the most classic ones, versus being mindful and present in your daily life, which that is something that what I sort of push and encourage patients towards is that if we can start with that meditation piece, that focused mindful breathing session of paying attention to our breath, only our breath, when our thoughts and feelings are redirected, as they will, we just simply non-judgmentally come back to our breath. If we could do that in a focused manner over time, we start getting that bleed over into living a more mindful life overall, because we start noticing and tracking our internal world much more, and we become much more adept at it. So we can understand that I'm not on the bus right now. I'm judging someone from this bus. Maybe I can return and focus on the color of their boots, their jacket, things of this nature, to ground myself in this present moment. So I can be alive in myself and not be somewhere else that's not even really real.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And I like the idea of mindfulness as, we're living in the present and there's no goals attached to it. It's just, you're just simply being present. And again, when we attach a goal, we live in this society where everything has to have a goal. There has to be a reason why we're doing something. And again, that's what adds to our stress and anxiety, right? This constant need to move from one task to the next. And I believe mindfulness is just, allowing us to slow down a little and focus on the here and now, and not having a goal with it, nothing attached to it.
No, of course, and you're very much right. We are extremely production oriented. We are task oriented people. And I think all that is wonderful. We need to be able to do things as human beings. We need to be able to communicate efficiently. We need to be able to be reliable and productive in our daily environment. But we need to be able to step into that. But it is as important to be able to also step out of that and to truly be with ourselves, step out of that stream so we can sort of actually think and process and check in with ourselves a little bit. Because with how sort of this predisposed we are as people in this country to be so task-oriented, we come out of disconnection with ourselves very, very rapidly, very, very rapidly. And we can see that happening as evidence of, let's say, someone is working so much that they've had to downregulate their hunger signal. Or they've had to work so much that, man, I experienced some eye strain by looking at this computer, and at the end of the day, that might not be a big deal, but let's add in this demographic with TBIs. All of a sudden, this normal downregulation of our signaling, boom, that's going to trigger way more symptoms. We all know that most of the time, these symptoms don't just appear bit by bit. There's a precipitous fall into them. And we can go from bad to worse very, very quickly. And what gets added into that, in that confusion as well, what happens is, well, I've been able to do this life. I've been just sort of, this has been automatic for me. But now I'm forced as a TBI survivor to become so much more intentional with every single choice, because these micro choices in my day, the 20 minutes that I might need to have extra for a lunch break, can become critical to the rest of that time. You there, Amy?
Yep. You froze for a second, but I think. Okay. Yeah. And, I like the whole idea of, how you explain, you might have eye strain or hunger pains or whatever. And, just in general, that's not a big deal. But then, like you said, as you combine it with our other symptoms, and then you combine that over day after day after day, and you just kind of fall off that cliff. I know for me, regulating my food is huge for me. If I don't eat at the right time, and I feel it coming on. I'm like, oh, I really need to eat. I need to get some protein. And I just kind of push it away because I'm doing something. And then bam, I fall off that cliff, and there's just no recovering from it the
Of
rest of the
course.
day.
Of course, and we could say it as a generality that most TBI, people in TBI recovery, especially with significant TBIs, we need to be far more sensitized to our internal signaling. Let's say someone who hasn't experienced it, or us before that point as well, which does not is a massive culture clash that we have here. And so the more sensitive we are to stimulus within our body and the environment, the more intentional that we need to be in that space as well. And so that's why, to me, in my sort of clinical experience, is that's why mindfulness works so well, because you're very right, Amy, that there's this difference between a mindful meditation and just a mindfulness practice. And even if we could become much more mindful in general of what's happening around us, what's happening within us, and also how that affects us overall, we can respond much more quickly to those signals rather than reacting to when those signals get ignored or have to be ignored.
Mm-hmm. I know just recently I had a friend call. She was spiraling. Something pretty innocuous had happened, but it set her off in the spiral. And I was like, all right, it is what it is. It happened. It's done. You're fine. You're safe. Focus on right now. Just breathe. And it was amazing how quickly she was able to get herself out of that, just by having someone simply remind her, you're safe. You're fine.
Yeah.
It's over. It is what it is. It happened, but you're fine.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You were able to really co-regulate with her there and help her understand, as a trusted friend, that, hey, if I'm saying things are okay, things are actually okay. And the signaling happening right now is not appropriate to the stimulus, and it's detrimental or yucky for your system to be experiencing. Mm-hmm. And even just helping someone take those deep breaths, even for 1 minute, for 30 seconds, that can have a profound effect on our nervous system, because our breath is the real gateway to our autonomic nervous system and the different branches within that as well. And so if we're able to connect in with our breath, which everyone is able to, because we have all our breathing right now, all day, every single day, then, and this is also something for free that we have access to all the time. If we're able to understand that, just some of the basics of that process, we're able to sort of hack into our autonomic nervous system, specifically when we're in that sympathetic drive, that fight and flight system, and we're able to, if we can recognize that in that state, to become aware of that moment, then we can respond differently. Okay, maybe I need to breathe for 30 seconds. Oh, I got to this level. Hey, that felt good. Maybe I'll do a couple more minutes right now. Oh, wow, I feel great. I feel back to normal right now. And it's a lot, it's not that much of an energy demand to come from our sympathetic nervous system, our fight and flight, to our parasympathetic nervous system, our rest and digest. We can actually move between those very efficiently as human beings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think, having a spouse or a family member or a caregiver, or, like you said, a trusted friend, someone who can work with you and work on mindfulness. And like you said, if they're telling you it's okay, you're safe, you're fine right now, just come into the present. Having that relationship with someone, having them both understanding mindfulness, I think that can have a really powerful impact on both your mental health.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, exactly, because not only that person is showing up in a need in that moment, Amy, she shows up to you because you're someone that she trusts over time, and you've earned that. No one can buy a sense of trust with another person. And so she's able to come and state her awareness point of, I don't feel okay. This thing has sent me over the edge. I need help. I need comfort and compassion right now. And so she was able to get that from an external relational source, where you two were able to co-regulate her back down into a calm state where she's fully online and activated again. But for me, what I try to do with people is help them come between those states of, how can I internally become aware and then go to help in my relational environment, because that strengthens the bond in both ways.
Yeah.
But how can I also become aware to be mindful and then become compassionate within myself? In my mindfulness oriented psychotherapy, this concept is called the two wings of the bird. The awareness point being one wing, but the compassion piece being the other wing. And so that allows us to take flight in this and to feel a sense of freedom within ourselves, because we can be our own regulators in that way in relation to ourselves. Everyone has a relationship to themselves, but often that relationship is fraught with a lot of self-criticism, shame, doubt, questioning, things like that. Something we never, ever dare utter to a friend or family member. We will scream regularly at ourselves.
Yeah.
There is no real resistance to that internally. But that's one of the biggest pieces of fruit that if people were to work from a mindful perspective, first comes the awareness piece. I'm not feeling okay. Okay, now I need to come into regulation right now. Maybe I need to go for a walk, take some deep breaths, look at 5 things around me. And then to understand as a human being, hey, I was just experiencing pain and discomfort. How might I be compassionate to myself now? Something that also helps us regulate further and back in to our rest and digest, our parasympathetic system.
Great. And so, Jacob, do you have any final tips for anyone listening on how to just practice mindfulness
Yeah,
and become more aware of it?
I would say that any listener who is interested in this, it's if you want something to work in a long-term fashion, if you really want something to work, then you need to work for it.
Mhm.
And I'm very frank about that in the therapeutic setting of I'm very behaviorally focused in that, because the more we exhibit behaviors, if I can get someone to take a break for breathing for 5 minutes, maybe every single day, or ideally 3 to 4 times a week, then we're able to set in this sort of pattern, and that can become very, very different. What I like to say to people is that a fence post has a very different function than a fence. 2 completely different things. And we're really looking to build that fence. And what that fence is, more of a response cycle to ourselves that's more positive and healthy, rather than a negative reactive cycle. And if we can chain these together over time, we're able to block that reactive cycle, and we're able to upregulate that response cycle, that more healthy cycle that we've been describing, with additives of self-compassion, co-regulation. And what happens from that as well over time is that, hey, we don't feel so stuck, alone, or trapped, in our issues, and we're able to move through. So sorry, I'm tanging a little bit there. But my biggest thing for people to do is, if you're going to do this, to try to do it consistently, but also try to pair it with a habit that already exists. That's one of the easiest ways we can form a new habit. So if every day you get up and brush your teeth, which I'm assuming everyone here does, we can then take 5 minutes after that. And if that takes waking up 5 minutes earlier, that might be a good choice to make. Or we could take the 5 minutes before we go to bed. Easy little habitual things. I come in, I set my stuff down, I do my breathing, I pull in the driveway at home. Maybe it's crazy inside with kiddos. I just do my breathing for 5 minutes where they can't see me. Then I come in. Just simple things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the concept of attaching it to a habit,
Mm-hmm.
like you said. I brushing my teeth, I practice, I stand in my mountain pose, my strong leg mountain pose while I
Wonderful.
brush my teeth. And I practice my mindfulness. So it works. Plus you're sort of multitasking.
There you go.
Well, Jacob, thank you so much for being here today and just talking all about mindfulness. And I do have all your information below this video for everyone watching. Your website is integratedbraincenters.com. They can find you on Instagram and Facebook at Integrated Brain Centers. And if anyone wants to learn more about working with you or anyone at Integrated Brain Centers, they can go online and schedule a free consultation.
Yeah, wonderful talking with everyone today.
Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any videos in this series. Like this video and head to Amazon to purchase Concussion Discussions.